On paper, you're living through a golden age. The S&P 500 is smashing records. Unemployment is at historic lows. The White House, the Federal Reserve, and every major news outlet are shouting it from the rooftops. The U.S. economy is resilient. But then, you walk into a grocery store. You look at a pack of chicken that costs twice what it did 3 years ago. You look at your rent or your mortgage statement. You look at your savings account, which seems to evaporate faster every single month, despite your raises. There is a massive, uncomfortable gap between what the data says and what your life feels like. And no, you aren't crazy. You aren't bad with money. Today, we're going to look behind the curtain. We're going to explain exactly how the economy can be booming, while the people inside it are struggling to survive. Economists have a new word for what you're feeling. They call it a Vibecession. It's a clever term, but it's also incredibly condescending. It suggests that the reason you feel broke is just a matter of bad vibes, that if you just looked at the spreadsheets, you'd realize how lucky you are. But the vibes are based on a cold, hard reality. In the last 4 years, the cost of living in the United States has undergone a seismic shift. We're not just talking about inflation, which is the rate at which prices rise. We're talking about the absolute price level. Even if inflation drops to 2%, the prices aren't going back down. They're just staying at that new, painful high. The problem is that our traditional metrics for success are broken. Gross domestic product, or GDP, measures how much money is changing hands. If a hurricane destroys a city and people spend billions to rebuild, GDP goes up. If people are forced to spend more on healthcare because they're stressed and sick, GDP goes up. GDP measures activity, but it doesn't measure asterisk. Well, dash being asterisk. This is the strong economy trap. The engine is running hot, but the passengers are being burned by the steam. Let's look at a story that might sound familiar. Let's call our protagonist Mark. Mark is 32. He has a good job in marketing. In 1995, Mark would have been the king of his suburb. He'd own a 3-bedroom house, a reliable SUV, and he'd be taking a family vacation to Disney World every summer. But in 2024, Mark is renting a 1-bedroom apartment for $2,200 a month, after taxes, student loans, car insurance, and a $400 grocery bill. Mark has about $300 left at the end of the month. 1 flat tire, 1 dental emergency, or 1 unexpected vet bill, and Mark is back in debt. Mark is doing everything right. He went to college. He works 45 hours a week. He doesn't buy avocado toast actually. He barely eats out at all. The American dream used to be built on a simple promise. If you work hard and contribute to the system will provide you with stability. But that promise was based on a different version of the dollar. In 1970, the median household income was about $9,000. The house cost roughly 2.6 times the annual income. Today, the median house price is over $400,000, while the median household income is around more than 5 times the annual income. The ladder hasn't just become harder to climb, the rungs have been moved further apart. So, if Mark is struggling, who is the strong economy actually for? To understand this, we have to look at something called the K-shaped recovery. In a K-shaped economy, one group of people, those who own assets like stocks, real estate, and businesses, see their wealth explode. When the government pumps money into the system to keep it strong, it flows directly into these assets. If you own 1,000 shares of an index fund, you feel great. You're getting richer while you sleep. But the bottom half of the K represents people who trade their time for money. If you work for an hourly wage or a fixed salary, you are on the losing end of this equation. Why? Because while assets inflate in value, wages almost always lag behind. Here is the hidden truth that most politicians won't tell you. The economy is strong because the top 10% of Americans, who own 93% of the stock market, are doing better than ever. Their spending keeps the GDP numbers high. Their luxury purchases keep the luxury brands booming. But for the other 90%, the economy isn't an engine of growth, it's an extraction machine. We've moved from a production-based economy to an asset-based economy. In this world, it doesn't matter how hard you work. It matters what you own and if you started with nothing, the strong economy is actually making it harder for you to ever own anything at all. Now, you might be asking, if everyone is so broke, why are the malls still full? Why are planes still packed? The answer is a single terrifying word: debt. U.S. household debt has hit an all-time high of over $17 trillion. Credit card balances alone have surpassed $1 trillion. For many Americans, the strong economy is being subsidized by 24% interest rates. People aren't buying things because they have more money. They're buying things because they've accepted that they'll never be out of debt, so they might as well survive the week. This creates a phantom strength. When you buy a $1,000 refrigerator on a credit card, the GDP records $1,000 of economic growth. It looks great on a spreadsheet in Washington, D.C. Purchase will eventually cost you $2,500 after years of interest. That's $1,500 of your future labor that has been stolen by a bank. This is the treadmill effect. To maintain the same lifestyle your parents had, you have to work more hours, take more risks, and carry more debt. And then there's the substitution effect. You might feel broke because you've been forced to substitute quality for quantity. You can afford a high-tech smartphone because it's subsidized by a monthly plan, but you can't afford a home. You can afford fast food, but you can't afford organic produce. The system gives you cheap gadgets to keep you distracted from the fact that the foundational pillars of wealth, housing, education, and healthcare have become luxury goods. This isn't just about numbers. It's about the psychological toll of survival mode. When the news tells you the economy is great, but you're checking your bank app before you buy eggs, it creates a form of cognitive dissonance. You start to blame yourself. You think, I must be doing something wrong. This leads to financial burnout. It's the feeling of running a race where the finish line keeps moving. It affects how we build families. Why are birth rates falling? Because children are the ultimate long-term investment. And in a strong economy that focuses on quarterly profits and immediate debt payments, no one feels they have the margin to be a parent. It affects our mental health. The constant background noise of financial insecurity creates a spike in cortisol. It makes us more polarized, more angry, and more desperate. When a society is told they are thriving, while they are actually surviving, the social fabric begins to fray. People lose trust in institutions. They lose trust in the American dream. They realize that a strong economy doesn't mean a strong society. So, why doesn't anyone fix it? Because the strong economy is exactly what the global power structure needs. The United States is in a global competition with rising powers. To maintain its status as the world's superpower, it needs high GDP, a strong dollar, and a dominant stock market. These are the tools of geopolitical influence. If the government admitted the economy was failing the average person, they would have to admit that the current model of growth at all costs is unsustainable. The Federal Reserve has a dual mandate: stable prices and maximum employment. Notice what's missing: affordability. The Fed can keep everyone employed, which looks great on a report, but if those jobs don't pay enough to buy a home, that's not their problem. Their goal is to keep the machine moving, even if the parts inside the machine are wearing out. We are living in a Goldilocks economy. For the elites, it's just right for profit, but it's freezing cold for the worker. So, where does this leave you? First, stop gaslighting yourself. If you feel like the math doesn't add up, it's because it doesn't. You are living through one of the most difficult periods for wealth building. In modern history, the economy is strong in the way a skyscraper is strong. It looks magnificent from a distance. But that doesn't mean it's easy to live in the basement. The truth is, we are moving toward a world where the traditional middle class is being replaced by two groups, the asset class and the service class. The only way out is to change the way you play the game. Stop measuring your success by the standards of 30 years ago. Focus on acquiring assets, no matter how small. Focus on financial literacy that goes beyond saving money and enters the world of protecting purchasing power. The headlines will continue to tell you that everything is fine, but you know your reality better than any economist. The economy is strong, but it's time we started asking, strong for whom? If you found this breakdown helpful, hit the like button and subscribe. We're going deeper into the systems of power and money every single week. Thanks for watching. And remember, you aren't crazy. The world is just getting more expensive. Stay sharp.